Hi, I'm Scott Eastman with Zero Weight State. I'm the VP of Customer Success. I've been with Zero Weight State for 11 years, and I'm responsible for making sure that our implementations help customers be successful. My professional background is mechanical engineering, but I got into PLM as an engineer wanting to have a solution to help us solve our problems, and just became something that I was really passionate about as far as helping other engineers like me get solutions that help them do their job in a better way. As a mechanical engineer, I became interested in PLM as a solution to help us do our job better and have better systems. That's kind of evolved over time to where I started doing implementations for Zero Weight State to help other engineers like me make their jobs easier. I've been doing that for about 11 years, and I can't tell you the number of implementations, but it's been quite a few. Some of the main opportunities for improvement when deploying PLM are to streamline your processes, enable outcomes that may be difficult today with current systems, tie systems together. One great example is the engineering systems that create the design data, tying those into the PLM system so that you're getting part numbers directly from the system, pushing part information, drawings, bills of materials from that design system to PLM without having to do exports and imports or manually retyping, and really saving a lot of potential human error in the process. So some of the biggest challenges to consider are, one, just organizational change. Changing systems, changing the way we do our jobs is always difficult, and it's just something that people are naturally resistant to. So we want to try and make sure we do an implementation that really gives the users something that is better than what they had before. Another challenge is the tendency to try and really implement the same system that you've already had, but just in a new user interface. That doesn't actually change anything about how you do things or enabling new outcomes. It's just putting a new UI on the same thing you've been doing, and that oftentimes doesn't seem, is more difficult to adopt because it's a change, but for what benefit? So you want to make sure that the benefits you're implementing actually are benefits. We like to look at, what are the outcomes you really need? The business processes that you have today are important for informing that, but we don't want to build a new system just based on what your as-is processes are. We want to look at the outcomes you need and really create the new methods for getting those outcomes, what you need versus how you do it. And then you can define how you do those in the new system, having the new system set up in your new outcomes enabled. So when considering your solution, a lot of legacy solutions are on-premise. There's some advantages to that. You've got total control of the system, and you can do what you like with it. With cloud-based solutions, you don't have that same level of control. Maybe there's a sense that the security isn't as good, but your ability to get things installed and get the system up and running is a lot quicker, typically, and easier to manage and maintain. With the cloud solution, some obvious advantages are you don't need to have as many resources to create those systems, have them installed and maintained in your environment. All of that's handled within the cloud. Salesforce, as an example, has a pretty good history of having really good security. They're really transparent as far as system uptime and any issues that might come up. They have a site called trust.salesforce.com where you can go and see information about the real systems. So some best practices for effectively deploying PLM. We could go on for probably a couple of hours on some, but some things to really focus on are really focusing in on what the outcomes are that you're looking for in your solution and making sure that the solution enables those. Trying not to get bogged down in recreating existing processes and not actually creating a new solution that gives you the outcomes that you're really looking for. So being able to step back, look at those, look at things from the perspective of what do I need from others to do my job, what do others need from me to do my job, and then making sure the system has that information and in a way that you can consume information from others, they can consume it from you, and that PLM system becomes really a data enrichment system to gather all the information needed from all the people involved in the product development process to get you the best total solution definition in the system and a very thorough capturing of your product record. So another part of getting a successful implementation is obviously having good sponsorship within the customer to create that solution, that it is something that, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to enable you to help make this happen. The users involved, the core team, they have ownership of making this happen and having their engagement. If you don't have active participants, it's really hard to get a solution that's going to really meet a customer's needs. So that sponsorship and the active participation of the core team involved is really important. So when migrating from an existing system to a new system, one of the things that you need to do is not get caught up in trying to recreate everything that's in the existing system. Take a look at what are the outcomes you really need and what are the outcomes you want in the new solution, and build a solution around that. You may find that there are processes in place or things in place in the old system that aren't used and really represent waste in terms of time and productivity of putting information in that nobody's using or having processes there just because they were required for some system at some other point in time. A perfect example is I've been on several implementations where there's a field in the system and everyone says, yeah, we need this field. And then when asking what it's for, nobody could answer. And it was just there because at some point in time, it was a required field by default from a system before, and it just got carried over from system to system, and nobody ever really used it. But no one was sure they could take it away. So sometimes the approach we take is, all right, well, let's not put this in there and see who complains, who's missing it. When you're implementing PLM, there's a lot of opportunities that come up to be able to make the system better and do more. One thing that's important is to, look at what your project scope is. Try and make sure you build a good foundation, but also understand what some of those opportunities are. Some of those things can be implemented within the existing scope because they're really not difficult. They don't take time, but you need to account for it. Other things might be something that you want to add to a future phase. But there are lots of opportunities with the systems, especially the newer cloud-based solutions where the platform itself gives you the ability to create additional objects, lots of metadata, lots of relationships, and you can really start to see how you can connect more and more dots, making your PLM information much richer, and the ability to start tying in to multiple systems and leverage the information across the different systems. So there's a lot of potential opportunity out there to just get more than what you think of as the traditional PLM use case, and it's just something you need to keep in mind and make sure you scope and plan for properly. So it's hard to pick one most successful deployment. There's a few that come to mind, but some of the common factors on those were the team involved at the customer had a great sense of ownership. They also had an understanding of, sometimes you do things a little bit differently in order to get what you really need, that you don't want to tie yourself down to a specific process as it's always been, but really focus on what are the key outcomes I need, what do I need, not how do I need it out of the system. So those implementations have been highly successful because there's an open mind about how to do things going forward. The other ones are when the customer has a good understanding of data that they're bringing out from one system and putting into the new system and being able to help with making sure that that data migration is smooth and that the information is complete and getting rid of the noise that's there. So there's a lot of discussion about doing out of the box versus customization, and the truthful answer is there's a lot of things that are considered custom that are really just configurable within the system. Depending on the platform, your opportunities for that vary quite a bit. But the key thing to focus on is not try to over-engineer a customization or not try to do something automatically within the system that you can't do manually because you really haven't defined your process or what you need well enough. So it's pretty easy to paint yourself into a corner with a customization if it hasn't been fully thought through. So in general, I like to try to do the first foundation of an implementation with minimal customization or automations, I'll call it, and then look at, okay, now that we have a good foundation, what are our opportunities for streamlining or automating things? And that generally helps you get a better long-term solution, and one that's not easy to break as you upgrade going forward. So common fear with customizations or automations is getting locked into something and not being able to upgrade the solution. So one of the things we do at Zero Wait State is take a look at what you're trying to do and architect an approach that's going to allow it to be scalable and flexible so that it's not tied down to something that's going to keep you from upgrading. You know, a lot of times we'll push back on how a customization or automation is being requested and suggest, you know, if you take this approach, this is going to be much more flexible, much more scalable, but still get you the same outcome. So, you know, we like to feel free to make those recommendations and push back, and it's great when we have customers that hear that and are willing to take a step back and look at things and figure out what is the best approach, what are the things that are really important, what are the things that maybe are just more of a, we're used to it this way, so we want it this way, versus, you know, we can do something a little bit different. It's not necessarily less productive, it's just a different approach.